And now we're going to welcome in our guest. We've got Mr. Joshua Harris ready to join us, and I'm going to pop him in. Joshua, how you doing today, buddy?
Guys. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. We appreciate you joining us. We are just talking a little college football here. We've been breaking it down all season. Obviously, the season is over, and we are, talking about everything that lies within the off season. And we had a pretty good year this year, and got to see somebody besides Alabama win the national championship, which we enjoyed. And obviously Georgia had a pretty good season. Did you get a chance to watch the title game, and what did you think of Georgia this year?
I did watch the title game. I thought that Georgia was strong. I thought that it was a solid game, and ultimately they made less mistakes, kind of overpowered Alabama, and obviously pulled it out. The quarterback story is pretty phenomenal. I don't know how that happens really at a place like Georgia, but it happened, right? And he took advantage of his opportunity, and we'll see what's next for him. And in the end, I don't even know what year in school he is or how many years left that he has, but yeah, that was a pretty phenomenal story and a great game.
Yeah, that guy. He's coming back. He's got one more year, and they've done everything they can to try and get him off the field. And as a guy that played quarterback in college and had as much success as you've got to give that guy some credit for the way that he, went to junior college, came back to Georgia, and then they tried to recruit over him, tried to replace him with the transfer portal, but he beat him out. I've got a lot of respect for the guy and what he did. What do you think about what he was able to do with the tables kind of being turned against him?
Well, any athlete, all you can really ask for is an opportunity to get on the field and show what you can do. And his story is a testament to patience. I'm sure there probably was some circumstance in there, maybe a little bit of luck as well. Maybe somebody got hurt. Maybe somebody wasn't patient. Maybe somebody that they tried to put in front of them thought it was going to be something that it wasn't, and so they left. Who know? I don't know the story well enough to know, but one thing that we do know is when he did get his opportunity, he made the most of it, and that's all that. You got to control the controllables in life and in sports. And, he took the one thing that he could control and did his thing.
Yeah, no doubt.
By the way, Joshua, this is James Bonneville. Thank you again for coming to the show. I was a huge fan of you when you were at Bowling Green. I was sitting there rewatching some of your film last night, and heck, you helped be part of developing the spread before the spread became in fashion. And it was always interesting watching you on running plays and how, especially your center guard combinations, your interior line. Guys like Mazur and I know I'm going to butcher the other guy's name, Muskowski. Is that the guy's name?
Murkowski.
Yeah. And how you read those guys so well, and they helped you so much in the run game. Could you talk a little bit more on how much that interior line really helped develop your game when you were at Bowling Green?
Yeah, I had amazing teammates, an incredible coaching staff. Each facet of the coaching staff was outstanding and has had long careers. Coach Stud, Coach Sadrawa was the offensive line coach at Ohio State until this past year. Him, along with John Hevesy, coached the tackles and tight ends. He maybe just left Mississippi State or may still be down there. I don't know. He was with Coach Mullen for a long time. Coach Mullen, the quarterback coach. We had a rock star staff, even down to our GAs. One of the years our offensive GA was Zach Azani, who's the wide receivers coach at the Denver Broncos. The next year when he left, the offensive GA was Matt Campbell. might have heard of him. He's at Iowa State. You know, bringing that group into the forefront, right? Then the defensive GA was DJ Durkin, which was
Yeah.
also the captain my freshman year at Bowling Green. So we had a star-studded crew. They coached those guys up very, very well. I don't remember it being anything. Man, running the ball is a feel thing,
Yeah.
and some people got it and some people don't. Probably very similarly to what those guys have to do up front and those combo blocks and knowing when to move off and go to the second level and things like that. It just worked out, man. That's really all I can say. All the pieces of our team were kind of clicking some of the time while we were there at Bowling Green.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your vision was just, I mean, there's a lot of parts of your game that really stood out, but your vision was one that just jumped off the charts for me. I mean, you just had a feel for the game where it seemed like everything just kind of slowed down, and you just knew how to create those opportunities when they happened. I mean, heck, especially during the time you were there was so much talent in the MAC. I mean, before the MAC became Maction, I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, Byron Leftwich. I mean, go down the line. I mean, heck, Mike Turner at Northern Illinois. I mean, it was every game was a brawl. And looking back on it, is it kind of shocking, or did you kind of always see that when you were watching film and playing against those guys that you knew that they were going to take that next step, the next level?
No, I don't think that anybody knew. At least I didn't. I wasn't paying attention. I was pretty focused on the task at hand. I knew that there was a lot of talent in our conference, but I didn't know that Ben Roethlisberger would go on to play 18 years and win 2 Super Bowls and probably be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like I didn't know that. Michael Turner had a very productive career until he retired or ran into the juggernaut that is LaDainian Tomlinson, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, you just don't know. Josh Cribbs was in the league at that time.
Yeah.
He'd probably be a Hall of Famer as a special teamer.
I love that.
Bruce Gradkowski had a 10-year career in the league as a backup.
Toledo.
I mean,
Yeah.
Charlie Fry. I mean, there were guys, Jason Babin, Greg Jennings, at Western Michigan. So no, I didn't know. All I knew is that we wanted to win every game that we played, and we did our best to do so.
Yeah, no doubt. The MAC was unbelievable back then, and is still one of my favorite. Being an Ohio guy, I love watching MAC football, and some people around the country kind of miss out on it because they may not know about it or don't get to watch it as much. But that's where football, is precedent, is in that area, and I love watching those teams play. And the game definitely has changed, Joshua, from that time. And I just want to get your thoughts on some things that are new. Back then, if you wanted to transfer and go somewhere else because you weren't getting to play, you had to sit out a year. And there was the schools had the ability to block where you could go, and obviously you couldn't get paid and get the NIL money. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on some of the new things that have popped up in college football and how you think it's going to change the game moving forward.
So where do you want to start?
Start with the transfer, man. I mean, what do you think about the ability for guys to go? I've always been for it. I think that if you're sold a bill of goods, you get to a school and it's not like you were told it was going to be, I think you should be allowed to go somewhere else. What do you think?
So I don't know how the transfer portal works. Maybe you could tell me how. I mean, is anybody allowed to leave anytime without penalty?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh wow, that's nuts.
Oh, yeah.
It becomes the wild west.
Yeah.
So I think that the transfer portal, I'm a strong proponent of the principle, you got to take the good with the bad. And so there's good for the transfer portal and there's bad for the transfer portal. I think that the transfer portal probably hurts high school players that are coming out.
Yeah.
And it helps college players that are in school. I think that there are situations and circumstances where the transfer portal makes perfect sense and probably makes somebody tons of money because they were able to leave and go to a new place that might be a better situation for themselves. I think that the recruiting process is a difficult one. I think that when you are being recruited and catered to and courted by these colleges, but then also rushed into a decision, it could this is what you get, right? I go to this place either because, I had the most fun on my visit, or they had the prettiest girls, or the coach seemed to like me the best, or they had the nicest facilities, but I didn't pay attention to how I fit into their system, or that, I just think that for something that's such a huge decision for these 17 and 18-year-old kids, and we're going through it right now with my son, my oldest son. We're kind of lightly getting into the recruiting process. I believe both of my sons will play Division I college football. Barring any injuries or anything like that. But it's just, you can go to a place and, you fall in love with that position coach, but maybe they don't fit in systematically, but the guy is so good, and that's the guy you're going to spend all your time with. And that could be a heavy influencer over your situation. Maybe, you don't like the environment, the area that the school is in, but when you get on campus, you don't feel that. Now you got to go to school there for the next 4 or 5 years, and you drive down the street in this area that you don't want to be in, or this area that's so remote that you don't want to. You're like, man, I got to go 30 minutes to be able to get to a mall. Like that is, that I think that it's hard to make, and a lot of people do make the right decision, but it's hard. It takes a little bit of luck. It takes some proper planning. It takes some mental fortitude to stick it out, and or some courage to leave. Like
Yeah.
people are not talking about when these cats jump in the transfer portal. Basically, that everyone jumps on them. Everyone being the fans jump on them and say that the guy is afraid to compete. Well, like nobody likes breaking up with people.
Yeah.
Like, do you realize how hard it is to tell your teammates I'm leaving, bro? Like, you're leaving your roommate, the guys that you came in with. And this is why I tend to not get into back and forth with fans, because they just really don't know.
Yeah.
So again, I think it's good and bad. And I think in a case by case situation, it probably changes or saves somebody's life or future.
Kind of going along the same topic. I mean, you look at your recruiting process. You were recruited by Coach Blackney, and then Urban Meyer comes in, and then Coach Brandon. I mean, what was your thought process during those coaching changes of yourself? I mean, that's kind of a traumatic thing, because I know a lot of players sit there and worry, is the offense going to help benefit me and the team long term? I mean, go through that process with me. What was your headspace during that time period?
My freshman year, Coach Blackney, when he basically announced his resignation mid-season, I was kind of going through my own thing. Like, I didn't even want to play football anymore, not because of Coach Blackney leaving, or I was going to transfer home and go to Ohio State and just be a student, or walk on and play football. And so I had kind of walked down those steps. I had registered for school or applied to get into school and everything. And it just was last minute that I decided, I went with my gut. My gut told me you can't go home. And I went back to school in the winter for winter break. And, the rest is history, right? Because Coach Meyer was there and stuck it out. Now, when Coach Meyer leaves, it's coming off the heels of a strong junior season. And, the NFL conversation is looming. And it's like, if they don't hire Coach Brandon, do I leave? and just take my chances in the league. And at that time, I had a 5th and 6th round grade, and so I'm like, well, and then they hired Coach Brandon, so I stayed. But at that time, the day before we had the team meeting, I had teammates calling me saying I heard Coach Meyer's leaving. I'm like, I don't believe it until he says it. But people asking me, if he leaves, are you going?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't even think about that. I don't even know that that's an option. Like, you guys are way far down the line than me. I'm here right now in this moment, thinking that he's going to be still our coach next year. So, go ahead.
No, it's amazing, like how a lot of fans only look at it from the wins and loss perspective, but they don't understand the headspace of the players and how big traumatic that is, especially going through the recruiting process. I mean, everything could kind of change on a dime, and it's just good to hear that kind of stuff, what you just said right there, because normal fans don't know that. They don't know what you guys are going through.
No, they don't. And, it was, a situation where when Coach Meyer made his announcement that he was leaving, I mean, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. You're talking about, 18 to 22-year-old young men that are reeling, that have bought into an entire program, experienced great success over the course of the last 24 months. And now hitting the reset button, I mean, it was a situation where there was one guy in the locker room. His name is Javon Burks. He was our middle linebacker and one of my co-captains for my senior year. And without him standing up and doing and saying what he said when he stood up, there's no telling what happens in that room. People might start to scatter, right? But he reminded us. He reminded us that it's not about the coaches or the administration. He reminded us that it's about the person on your left and your right, and that's who we actually play for. It's not about the fans. It's not even about the university. It's about the guys in that room. And people were able to grab onto that. That ended up being the glue that held us together. And then, post meeting, the defensive guys come up and they're like, hey, if we can make a play for Coach Brandon to be the guy, and you guys can continue to score 35 or 40 points a game, we'll be okay over here on the defense. We'll figure it out. And so we went up and requested that from the athletic director. Myself, Scott Markowski, I think, was another guy that came into the room. And, we said, well, we want Coach Brandon. And they said, yeah, we'll keep it under advisement. I said, I don't think you understand. Like, I don't know what kind of team you're going to have in the fall. And it's not like we were trying to strong arm them. We were just telling the truth.
Yeah.
Like, we were telling the truth, man. Like, we're not trying to go through this again. And, I don't know what dominoes would have fell, especially as it relates to the skill guys. If I would have left either to try to follow Coach Meyer or just gone to the league, I don't really know. Obviously, they had, Omar was there. He played after me and did an awesome job. Incredible season in the season that he played. So maybe there's no drop off. But I would venture to say that my senior season and him having another year to develop from a high school player, and seeing that type of success and seeing how to run and lead a team probably helped his development for the year that he did have, because he went like 41 touchdowns and 4 in his premier season. I mean, it was ridiculous. And I knew he was going to be really, really good and special from the time he walked on the campus. But it was an interesting situation and space, and it was scary. To think that a new guy could come in and say, "Hey, I'm bringing," it's been real, Josh, but you don't really fit what I'm trying to do. And how does that impact my situation and my future? So who knows?
Yeah.
Listening to talk about that, the locker room and the brotherhood you guys came together. And heck, more importantly, how it all kind of came together when you guys beat Northwestern in that Motor City Bowl. It kind of solidified your guys' process when you found out that Coach Meyer left, and that's awesome to hear. Who did you model your game after? Like when you went to college? Because the name that kept popping in my mind is Mike Bishop, the old K-State quarterback, you were probably in high school and he was playing at K-State. But who did you like model it after?
Well, I didn't really model it after anybody. I would say my game was probably more similar to Donovan McNabb's than Mike Bishop's.
That makes sense.
But I didn't really model my game after anybody. All I did was my job. People talk all the time about what was accomplished at the university. During that time, and people are very complimentary and thank me all the time and thank you for putting us back on the map. Honestly, I really just feel like I just did my job, right? So if I was, early in my career, we'll talk about when Coach Meyer got there. Like my sophomore year, for the first part of that year, we were splitting time. I was splitting time with the other quarterback, Andy Sam, and I just wasn't ready to do a lot, developmentally. They didn't trust me to throw the ball, especially inside the box, right? They didn't trust me to throw it and not turn it over. I don't remember me being ever turnover prone, all like that, but maybe an accuracy thing at that time. I don't know. But as I continued to develop, but I would get in and I would run around and they would call plays a specific way. And then at the end of the year, they let me have it all. They let me have it all. And it worked out. I mean, the last 3 games of that year, when I started, we stopped splitting time, and I started. I think I probably had, 11 or 1,200 yards passing, with 10 plus touchdowns passing, and then another. I mean, it was a ridiculous little stretch, and it was a springboard to that junior season. So I didn't really think of myself as modeling my game after anybody. He brought in that offense and it asked for certain things at certain times, and I just did my best to accomplish the mission on each play.
Yeah, no,
it just seems like a hard hat mentality. You went out about just do your job, let your guys do their jobs, and everything's going to come together. Thank you so much on that.
Yeah, no doubt. And hey, Josh, we're about to get you out of here. We really appreciate your time. And before you let you go, I just got one last question. Going through the recruiting process now, with your son, Jacob, and looking at these schools, and like you said, with the portal now, there's less spots available because some of these schools are going after guys that have already played and have college experience, and so it's tougher for these high school kids to get chances and to get offers. And I just want to get your feeling on what it's like looking at the recruiting aspect from having your son going through it now as opposed to when you were doing it yourself.
Well, I mean, it's interesting, man. It really is. My wife also was a big time college athlete. She was a high jumper at Ohio State, All-American, Hall of Famer. So our process has been totally different than our son's process. I mean, everything's done on Twitter now, and I mean, you don't know, and each college and staff does things differently. Like some of them, it's just weird. Honestly, it is weird. Some of them are looking to develop internally and organically. Some of them are going for that quick conversion, that college player who's unhappy, boom, he gets over on campus. But just like in life, you really don't know what you got until you get in it. And so I think this is the reason why some people are jumping in that portal, right? You don't know what you got until you get there. And then you might see someone in the portal that you like, and they may come, and then you're like, man, I see why you weren't playing over there, right? I see why, whatever. It's not the grass isn't always greener, so to speak. But in terms of the recruiting process for these young folks, including my son, I would say one of the things that has to be considered is, go somewhere where they really feel good about you. Right? Like it has to feel good. Like it has to feel it should feel like home. If it doesn't feel like home, if you're like, man, this is the biggest school that has offered me a scholarship, or this, they have the nicest facilities. Like there should be some sort of scorecard with the things that you feel are important. I won't name the schools, but like there are certain schools that, without seeming like braggadocious, because I'm really not him, but like when I go to these places it's so important for me to be there, right? Because the coaches remember.
Yeah.
So when I go and I make the introduction, hey man, I'm Josh Harris. I don't always say I'm Josh Harris, played at Bowling Green, name off my resume, but either they remember or I look for an opportunity to, boom, bring the rest to the table. So I'm Josh Harris, and then if they don't bring it up at some point in the conversation, I'm bringing it to the forefront, as well as my wife is a high jumper at Ohio State, Hall of Famer, All-American. So because my kid is a late bloomer, he's grown 8 inches in the last 24 months or whatever, and so like he's not on their radar already, right? He's just getting to the radar. So for us, the people that are looking at him need to understand that what he is today is not what he's going to be in 24 months. Like he has not even scratched the surface of what he actually is athletically. And so you're looking for a place that A, understands that, B, likes even where he's at, is going to have the patience and the skill to develop him, that he's going to be a good fit for. Like, some of the places I'm asking, like, hey, what's the profile of your receivers? I don't know whether he's going to be a receiver or a tight end. It depends on, how his body continues to develop. My dad, who played tight end in the NFL, told me when he was probably in the 6th grade, he's going to be a tight end, right? I said, no, I didn't know that. I think he's going to be a receiver, but that may be right. Now he's 6'3" and he's 190 pounds, and it's like, and hasn't even really developed yet. So maybe he's 210 when he gets done with high school football, and then they put 25, 35 pounds on him, and you don't really have a whole lot of 240-pound wide receivers or 235-pound wide receivers, except for the super freaks like Julio and Demaryius, those guys. But if my guy's not fast like that, right? Maybe he's not Brandon Marshall, but he's Travis Kelce. So it is really interesting. But I know that for us, what we're looking for and what I'm looking for in particular is how quickly can you transition from being excited about me and us being on your campus to him?
Yeah.
You ain't recruiting me, right? You need to build a relationship with him. He's the one that has to enjoy the experience. He's the one that has to feel good about it. He's the one that's going to be sitting in those meeting rooms. He's the one that has that's going to have to fall in love with the process and the weight room and the different nutritional aspects of your deal. I don't need anything else from this game. I already got what I got.
Yeah.
And so going through this process has been interesting. I need to know because for our family, we will decide it as a group, right? This is a huge decision for I don't understand 17-year-old, and I made my own decision, and even that was like, I can't believe I did that. But I mean, you're talking about a commitment that is like the biggest decision you've ever made, probably at that point in your life. So his opinion will be part of the decision. It will not be the sole decision. He will have an opportunity to really say, though, like, I mean, he'll be a big part of it, huge part of it. And he'll be able to make his claim as to what he wants to do and why he wants to do it. Because I need to know that he went through the thought process appropriately. My wife's little brother went to St. Louis to play basketball.
Yeah.
He was there for a year, transferred home, went to OU. He should have gone to OU in the first place. It cost him a year. He had to sit out. He was on that OU team that went to the Sweet 16, right? And so we've already seen this before. I told him what to do before he's kind of going into this. I'm like, you need to have a list. You need to know what kind of coach you would be willing to play for. Because if you go and play for one of those guys that's a nut, and that ended up being Rick Majerus, he's like, man, he talks crazy to the players. Like, I can't. I'm like, bro, you need to know that that's not okay with you. Like, if that's not okay with you, then you can't go to a place like that. You need to know how you fit into their system. You need all these different things. But I think that ultimately, sometimes people get distracted by what they think that they have to do to get to where they want to go. And it's like, oh man, I need to go to the biggest school possible. Like, maybe not. Like, maybe you need to go to a place that's going to allow you to develop and step into your role and allow your role to morph and change as you continue to improve. And so that's kind of what we're looking at and going through. I mean, you know, some of the coaches, like when they see him, I want to see. There's one coach in particular. Again, I won't name the school, but when he saw him and was introduced to him the first time, his eyes lit up like he just saw a pretty wife. Like your wife walking down the aisle.
Yeah.
And you see her standing at the end of the aisle, and he's like, wow, right? I'm looking for that type of response. Yeah. Now, since I experienced that, and I'm like, man, he just fell in love with him in an instant, right? Now you have to go and produce to continue to maintain that love because relationships are work. Yeah. But if you don't respond like that, now that I've experienced it, then what are you thinking when you see him? I don't know. Maybe you're entertaining him because, man, like, you know, like this guy is a college football legend, dude, whatever. Like, you know, hey, maybe Jacob is as good as his dad, but we hope so. No, I want you to make your decision based on what you see in him. And so, I mean, if I never would have experienced that, and maybe I wouldn't have that to go off of. Because we've met other people and they're just kind of like, oh, that's great. And they talk to them for a couple minutes and they're back to talking to me. It's like, I mean, I love to talk football just as much as anybody, but dude, I mean, this guy is the guy trying to go to school. Like, I'm gonna go back to selling life insurance once we get done with this one. So like,
I already played,
you know, talking to him. Yeah,
no doubt. Well, hey, best of luck to the search, and I hope you guys find the right fit. I know, you know, when I was looking at schools, I went to a smaller school and played a little D3 ball because I wanted to play. You know, I had some chances to go bigger places, but my biggest thing was I wanted to actually play. But as a kid, I didn't think about all the work that was going to come with it. You know, I just figured, oh, I'll go and play football and that'll be great. But man, when you get to college, you got to tell them, man, it's a lot of work. There's watching film, there's working out, there's running, there's, you know, meetings. It's nonstop. And that's the one thing that I really remember that was different from playing high school, you know, to playing in college. It was a full-time gig, in my opinion.
For sure. Definitely.
Well, awesome, Josh. Well, thank you so much. Like you said, you are a legend, man, and we appreciate you so much coming on today. We enjoyed speaking with you, and best of luck looking at schools for Jacob.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good one.
All right, you too.